Welcome back to Talk Nerdy to Me, an entrepreneur's financial guide. I'm Michelle Delker, founder and CEO of the William Stanley Group. And today with me, I have a really beautiful woman who looks like she was in glam and maybe at a really fantastic event last night. Who is she? Her name is Dalila Berry. And Dalila, you look like you might be an attorney.
I might be an attorney. I might be an attorney.
Are you an attorney?
I am indeed an attorney.
And what, like practicing law for 9 years now?
No, 9.5.
9.5?
Yeah. And
a pretty prestigious firm, like in the Northeast?
In the Northeast.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So that narrows it down, but we're not naming any names.
We're not naming any names.
But it might be on your pen if we zoom in. And
no, you're not going to zoom in on my pen.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming and chatting with us today. So super excited to have you in the studio. Side note, Dalila was supposed to be on our show last year, November of 2024. Yeah. And she came in from... Can I say the town?
Philadelphia.
Yeah, it is a northeastern town, right? On the map,
town.
That's what it says. And we met for dinner, and we were supposed to film the podcast the next morning, but I woke up with no voice.
Yeah, she woke up with no voice and still thought she could possibly do it, and then realized that she couldn't.
There's got to be a way.
So 1 year later, we finally made it to the studio.
Yes, and I'm just honestly so delighted to have you here because we work with a lot of small to mid-sized businesses and really incredible entrepreneurs, truly the fabric of our community, the bedrock, if you will. And a lot of them don't always have access to this level of expertise that someone like you is able to offer. And so what we try to do is bring in really those gold standard partners so that the folks can see, hey guys, this is really what we're looking for when we're talking about a top tier treasury partner. This is what we're looking for when we're talking about a top tier risk mitigator, right? And when we talked about this particular discipline, you were the only person that I thought of. So I am, I'll say it again, delighted that you are here. And we are going to talk to you, asking you all of the burning questions.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate the accolades. And ask me anything.
Okay, so just a little backstory. Dalila and I met back in like late 2017.
Sounds about right.
Yes, yeah. I was working as a, at that point, director of finance and accounting for a large healthcare enterprise. And we met in the middle of I want to say it was a credit line renegotiation. Mm-hmm. And we had an opportunity to work together in that capacity for maybe 6 years.
Wow.
Right? And it was magic. It was absolute magic. There were so many fun things that we got to do along the way that for me today, as a small business owner, allow me to serve my clients in a lot better capacity. So we're going to call this episode, don't mind my notes, The Legal Playbook, How Smart Business Owners Protect What They've Built. All right. So you ready for my questions?
Ready for your questions.
Side note, these questions are completely different than what I sent her last night at like midnight. This morning I updated
ran through them right before this.
Yes.
So we're sort of prepared.
Yeah, sort of prepared.
We'll be okay.
How we roll, right? How I roll, not Dalila. My gaslight is currently on. She's very nervous about it. All right. So every entrepreneur hits that moment when business gets bigger than the paperwork. What drew you to helping founders navigate that space between vision and protection?
Yeah, good question. I think it tells you a little bit about not just why I do what I do, but why I'm so passionate about what I do. I was a small business owner.
What?
Before law school, before any of that, before I even finished undergrad. And it was one of those things I navigated completely by myself. And looking back at the mistakes that were made and all the glorious things that happened, it would have been wonderful to have what I would have considered a strategic partner in moving forward and helping with the contracts, with the lease agreement, with things that I in my early 20s, we won't talk about how long ago that was, didn't realize I could have used guidance with. And so looking at it now, when I see in particular small businesses, and I don't always work with small businesses, I work with larger companies as well, but in the small business realm, those are my favorite. Those are my favorite because it's soup to nuts. You get to see how the sausage is made, and you get to see how someone makes their dreams come true. And to be able to help in that space it's an honor for me.
I think that's incredible. I mean, truly. So you have the perspective of a business owner, right?
Yep.
And the angst and anxiety that went along with that.
Oh, yeah.
personal guarantees, like all of the things that really expose you and put everything that you've worked for your whole life at risk.
It's true.
And now you have an opportunity to provide counsel and support to folks that are in that position. So I think that's really unique and very, very special.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I love it.
So the next thing, so you are incredibly sharp. Before we got started, I said, like, I want full on Dalila. She was like, I don't
And I said, I'm not putting that on camera.
Yes. But you are just so deeply human, like so smart to know all of the things, but so deeply human. Where does that approach come from? Because I think it's a little bit different than maybe what the standard is.
Well, that's an interesting question because I find in my practice, some of the best mentors that I have are very deeply human. They're not just, let's get this contract done, let's get this deal closed. It's, let's talk about what matters to you. Let's get inside. How are you feeling about this? And I think a lot of lawyers do want to know how their clients are feeling. I think every lawyer should be sharp in their field. That's why we're hired. That's why we do what we do. So I appreciate that, but I don't think I'm any more sharp than the colleagues I work with every day. But I do feel like that the level of being human, the idea of trying to understand and get underneath someone's, reality and what they're looking for, that comes with practice. It comes with empathy. And I think some of the best lawyers in the transactional space have empathy for their clients.
Yes. And I think you're just so lovely to say, like, everyone's sharp. And it's like, well, let me tell you, Chica, I've been around and some of the knives aren't quite as sharp,
Everyone
right?
should be sharp.
Yes.
Right?
So, like, I say often, I'm like, the technical expertise is a given, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes maybe someone is newer to a field or maybe they're changing specialties, right? So depth of knowledge, having a good bench, all of that is incredibly important. But once the expertise is a given, I think personality and chemistry are incredibly important. So I often say, like, I ask people to share with me deeply personal things, right? When we're talking about financials. Yes, we're talking about financials. It really is almost like going to the doctor's office and, taking off the clothing. And for us to be able to perform our best, we really need to understand what's going on, underneath the robe. And for you to be comfortable, we have to be like real and human with you. That is what I've always seen in your approach. You helped me with a transaction, and I'll never forget one morning you called me, probably after a particularly terse email that I sent late at night, and you said, hey, I am talking to you not as your lawyer, but as your friend. Here are the things that I want to tell you. And I thought that was so amazing because no one had ever done that with me before, right? And it was just deeply human and exactly what I needed in that moment.
Well, thank you for saying that. I think some people in my field might think it's not a good idea to tell your client that you are their friend. But sometimes that's what people need to hear. I think people rely on their attorneys to be highly technical in all the problem-solving, fixers in the world. And the reality is you solve your own problems. We just help you get there. And so I think that it's the idea that let's take a step back and think about what's really happening and how it really impacts you is the most important thing that we can do as counsel.
Yes, and I definitely lean on you, right? It might seem like a small agreement, but I'll send it over. Take a look at it. What do I need to watch out for? And not everyone does that, right? Not everyone runs all sorts of documents by their attorney, maybe at the most timely moment. So when you look at your clients, what do the most successful ones do differently when it comes to involving their attorney early?
Yeah, that's exactly it. They involve their attorney early. I think, the reality of hiring counsel is it is a cost measure for everyone. It's never free to call your lawyer and ask for legal advice. But that little bit up front really saves you, and the time up front to really understand what you're doing can really save you on the back end. Sometimes, depending on the transaction, I would even suggest talk to your counsel first, and then feel like if you need to involve them later, you involve them later. But, better to get the perspective first. So that, to me, is, I think, some of the most successful clients, they involve counsel first so that they get the lay of the land. And, it's your business. You know how to operate it. You know how to run it. We're just going to tell you where the pitfalls are, and you can jump in them if you want, or you can jump over them, but yeah.
No judgment, she says.
No judgment, because at the end of the day, I didn't build what you built, and you have an idea of what you want, and my job is to tell you what the risks are. And if you have someone in there early telling you what the risks are, then you can navigate on your own. And if you want counsel involved throughout the whole process to navigate, then you do that too.
It's interesting. I mean, you said there's a cost. We like to say that, what you're spending is an investment. We like to be able to show a return as a result of the investment that you've made. And when someone is just getting started or they're entering a growth phase, there are basic tenets, right? And so it's not every single nuance or contemplating every possible scenario, but what is of the moment? What are the things that we need to know now? So maybe getting the broad strokes and then zooming in as additional things come up so people are better versed. And I have seen, side note, maybe some friends, who knows, not naming names, but I've seen a lot of folks leveraging AI as a legal resource. Do you know, reviewing contracts or drafting contracts and things of that nature? Is that something that you've experienced with clients?
We've experienced it with clients. We're seeing it a lot in the industry about people trying to rely on things that they might seem, I can just pop this into, not naming names, whichever AI platform that you're trying to use. And you said something in the beginning. You asked, how are you so deeply human? The one thing AI, not today at least, can be is human. And it might spit out an answer for you, but it's never picking up on nuance, and it's never picking up on I would say the temperature in the room, the reality of the transaction. And often the answers are legally incorrect. So that is, I think one of the big platforms just announced that they would no longer give legal advice.
Yes.
And
or
I think
health.
Or health
Yes.
advice, right? Which, people have been using WebMD for years. But the legal advice to me was, of course, hit home because I can't tell you how many people, so-and-so, it said this, and this platform said that. And there's so much more nuance to it. So that is not what I mean when I say get legal involved early.
Right?
It is not.
Yes.
Is not getting your computer involved, because you don't know what you don't know, and that is the biggest pitfall for anyone. Whether you're a junior associate starting off at a law firm, or whether you're starting a business, or finally got that first acquisition and you're ready to go, you don't know what you don't know, and an AI chat bot is not going to help you figure that out.
It's about as credible as like a TikTok influencer, right?
I don't know.
Ish.
I don't have TikTok. I'm a traitor to my generation. No social media other than LinkedIn. But yeah, I'm sure that's exactly right.
Well, so, we've seen a huge influx of audits from the IRS because a lot of folks are relying on little tax bits of advice from influencers that they're seeing, just sort of plugging it in. I heard I could do this. And it's like, well, let's talk about truly the nuance that's associated with that and the parameters that need to be put in place. And so folks, sometimes AI included, can make very complex topics seem very simplistic. And in reality, they're not.
In reality, sometimes you have to roll your sleeves up. Yes. I think in reality, when something is complicated, it's complicated for a reason, and it's not fair. Maybe you don't get it, but that's why we have expertise in the area. If my stomach starts hurting for days on end, I can't pretend to know exactly what's wrong.
Yes.
So I need someone to tell me what that is. If I'm looking at a tax structure, for example, whether it's a tax shelter or just trying to help myself with a dividend or whatever that might be to minimize tax consequences, that tax code is so complicated, I don't even pretend to play in that space. There are tax experts. In fact, tax lawyers are one of the segments of law that you can call them an expert in their field because they're specifically trained for that. So myself, I wouldn't try to figure it out. I would contact a tax lawyer.
Oh my gosh, wait. So sorry, going off script here. So you're an attorney, but there are areas of law that you would not touch. You would call a different type of attorney.
Absolutely.
So one attorney is not the same as the next.
Not at all.
Earl.
Not at all.
But do you get that a lot? People will find out you're an attorney and they start asking you really obscure things that are related to a different...
I cannot tell you how many people call me for traffic violations, clients who will call me for things that are unrelated to business. I will say every lawyer, outside of a few practices where you have to be specialized, like tax, for example, I could go into court tomorrow and try to play Matlock. I could certainly do that.
Do you guys know who Matlock is? Mateo, do you know who Matlock is?
Oh my God! Wait, what's the newer reference? I don't really watch TV much. I'm sorry.
Well, when would you?
What?
Yes.
I could try to play a lawyer on TV who goes to court, and sometimes in a pro bono matter, and something that we've done a ton of research on. Some of our what we'll call contract attorneys, business attorneys will do that. But for the most part, we keep the litigation to the litigators. They keep the commercial stuff to us. And there's everything in between that if we feel like we can help our client with, we will. But, and I think that one of the benefits of working at a firm is when you call me for an employment question or an IP question, I got a guy for that, right? Or a girl for that.
Yes.
And so we have the knowledge to know that we can't know everything.
Did I call you about a Spotify takedown?
Do you want to talk about this here?
Did you connect me with? Did you connect me with, right? But you sort of oversaw that, but you knew that, David was the one that we wanted to talk to, right?
Correct, because he's the best and he knows exactly, what to do in that space. And whereas I have no experience in that space. And I think one of the benefits of knowing that your counsel is limited is really wonderful. I think if you take the time, and really a lot of this also can be on your counsel. Mm-hmm. I feel like sometimes when you have a long-standing relationship with a client, you just want to be the one to help them. Mm-hmm. Nothing nefarious. You just want to be the one to help them. But also understanding that you may not be able to help them in this space. So if you're doing trust and estates, for example, you might not be the best person to help them with their M&A stuff, even if it's a small acquisition.
But it happens all the time.
I know.
So I see these beautiful people who have built incredible businesses, and maybe they're at the point now where they're looking to facilitate a transaction, and they're getting an offer for $20 million, for $30 million, and they come to me. What are the tax implications? Like, how could we structure this? And I'll say, who is your counsel? Who are you working with on this? And it's like, oh, Joe, my neighbor Joe. He's really big in the civil world. And I was like, oh, Joe sounds great, but probably not who we want for this, right? Correct. Because there are so many nooks and crannies where you need to have a clear line of sight. You need to know all of the ins and outs. You need counsel that is advising you and running ahead, not someone that you're prodding along.
Correct. And you also, I mentioned earlier, you don't know what you don't know. Mm-hmm. And Joe is not going to know what you don't know either. If Joe is your, say it again, trust and estates attorney, just not going to know it. Now, does that mean that you can't finalize your contracts? No, of course you can. But are you getting the gold standard? Are you getting someone who's seen it, done it, and knows how to work with it? No, you're not.
I think for me, that's probably the most powerful thing that we might be able to say this entire podcast is that one is not like the other. Every specialty is unique and different, and it's really important to be working with the right partner from that perspective. So larger firms, you're saying, would have representation for those different specialties. If you're talking about maybe a 1 or 2 attorney practice, right? That may be a little bit more limited, but could have a great social network where there are recommendations that are made, there are facilitators, all of that.
Absolutely. And a great example of that are small business firms, yes, where they may have 2 or 3 attorneys, but those 2 or 3 attorneys are well versed in the area of business. Now, you're not going to them, for a civil violation,
yes,
but you're going to them for business.
Perfect.
They may not have a tax specialist, but I bet you they know one,
yes,
who can help you in that situation. So I do think it's important for you to find the right counsel. And look, I think every good lawyer is a jack of all trades. I truly do. I mean, I handle matters and deal with situations that are not, what I thought I was going to do out of law school. And the reason is that because if you really want to be valuable to your clients, you have to learn about their business, learn about the types of laws that will impact their business. But, there are certain areas where you want that specialty, and not everyone can give it to you.
Yes.
And that's okay. That's also okay. If you call me for a matter and for whatever reason, my firm is not able to handle that particular expertise, I'm not going to be sad about it. I'm going to find you the right person to do it.
Yes.
Because to me, that's my job. To me, my job is to make sure that whatever you need done is facilitated in the right way, and not just you, anyone. But I don't want to take on something where we can't give it 100%.
Yes, and I have to say, I find that to be just so wonderful. Recently, I needed to form a new LLC, and things were really busy at the office. And I said, "Hey, can you do this?" And you said, "We can. It would be less expensive if you did it, but we certainly can, right?" It was like, okay. Well, it felt a little overwhelming. So if you could have someone handle that, that would be great. And I think that's really fantastic as well, right? Because you're able to discern this is where a lot of horsepower is needed, or
Yep.
maybe not so much. Like I can give you a paint by numbers here if you want to DIY.
Yeah, and to me in particular, when we deal with small businesses, I don't mind if we don't incur the legal fees to do something small that I know that will cost you nothing.
Right.
Because I'd rather you put that money towards something else that I know you might need it for. But I always, and I'll tell you or any other client, if it's something that I know you can navigate yourself, and I know you can because I know you've done it, right? Sure, I can do it. It'll just, do you really want to spend I won't tell everybody how much it would have cost, but do you really want to spend that to do this? And that comes with time. Obviously, I'm not saying that to a new client because I haven't built that rapport, and most people wouldn't. But I think being a good partner for your clients as an attorney is letting them know, yeah, I'm here. I can do whatever. Here's what I can't do. Here's what you can do yourself. And let's figure out how to make this a balance for you going forward.
It sounds like you're being a good steward of someone else's resources. But side note, I did ask her to go ahead and do it because it was incredibly busy, and like it was contingent upon this and that and the other thing. So it was wonderful that you were able to do that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But I love the position. Now, gone way off script.
Way off script. Where are we?
Sincere apologies. Number 2, the legal basics that actually matter. Okay, it says every business starts with formation documents, but few owners know what's really essential. If someone's running a small company right now, what are a few documents that they absolutely need, and why are those documents so important?
Yeah, that's a good question. So unfortunately, a lot of answers to questions like these are it really depends. It depends on the industry. It depends on how small when we're talking small business. And I think most importantly, it depends on are you a single owner or are you sharing this ownership with someone else? If you're a single owner, that list is very small about the types of documents you truly need.
Okay.
You definitely need your formation document. If you're just a single member LLC, you don't need your operating document, and things of that nature. But if you have multi-members or multi-owners, multi-shareholders, you want documentation to, and I think we'll get to this a little bit later, but you want documentation to govern what are your roles, who's on first in certain situations. And when people are starting a business, they're so excited, and it's kind of like a marriage. They never think anything is ever going to go wrong. One of my colleagues has this spiel, and I love it, and I'll get back to this in a minute, but it's, if you're getting married, you can let the government tell you what your marriage contract is like, or you can make it on your own with a prenup. And to me, that's perfect for the analogy for business. If you're getting into bed with someone for business, you can fight all the fights and let all of the laws, be what they are, and you can go to litigation and avail yourself to the courts. Or you can hash it out a little bit beforehand, to figure out and to draft that contract on your own. So to me, if you're, again, depends, but if you're multi-member, I would say getting a document that governs your relationships. Also, if you're a small company and you have projections to move forward, actually have projections, have your business plan.
What?
Have a business plan. This is not legal, but when you start to grow, you're going to need things like financing. And the sooner you can put those thoughts onto paper without having to rush to do it, I think the better position you'll be in. So have a business plan. It helps with all the legal things more than you think it will, and have an operating agreement.
That sounds really straightforward. Truly. I love the projections. That makes me very excited.
Of course it does.
What about employment agreements?
So that's interesting. If you just have employees who come in and they're hourly, you don't actually need an employment agreement. If you have one or two people working under you, you might just want to hire them. Like when I had my first job, I don't think I had an employment agreement. But, you might want an employee handbook, which is just a rule, a guideline of the expectations, just in case something goes awry, and you can just have them sign that. I think everyone who's worked at a fast food chain or anything like that will know you have those employee guidelines that you follow through. And unless you have executives, you don't necessarily need to write all that down. If you start a small business and you do have executives, and it's not just you're not just the CEO and president, and there's other people there, then yeah, you should have employment agreements in place for your executive team. It's the executive compensation structure, and you want to write that stuff down, especially if you're giving away shares or you're providing benefits or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Like technical for sure. What I see a lot of is businesses that start very small, sometimes solopreneurs or, just a couple of people firm, and then they grow over the years and don't revisit some of these things. Do you know? It's like they don't realize that they've grown to be 6 feet tall and now their pants are really short, right?
Yeah.
They go from a $500,000 to a $25 million company over the course of a decade, and it's been incremental growth, and they don't realize really how big time they are. And then sometimes you do have those situations where you've got key people in the organization and you don't have some of those basic agreements that you would expect for an organization of that size. Do you ever see that?
I do see that. And just to be clear, when you're starting, you're likely not going to have an executive compensation structure.
Not.
But you can still be a small business and need an executive compensation structure. And so as you move forward, it's always a good thing to kind of check yourself and see where you are at. This is why I think also projections are good for your business. You can compare them to where your actual growth was. Now, the reality is, as you know, most small businesses don't have projections. They have an idea and they let it grow and they let it blossom and they're go, 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 and they're super excited about everything. And I love that. And it's part of the reason I love being a part of the process. Yes. But take a step. And if you can, by the way, because a lot of people can't afford counsel right off the bat, and that's also okay. But if you are in a position where you can spend that little bit to have someone to have that conversation, then do it to figure out, okay, clearly I don't need this now. But as we start to grow, I'm going to call you again in a year or 6 months or whatever it might be so we can put this in place. Again, it's that initial macro level, where should I be at whatever stage and how can I protect myself? Because look, if you have an attorney you like, ask them for an informal 15-minute coffee.
A 15-minute coffee?
15-minute coffee. Our coffees are much longer. But an informal, just to say, hey, can I pick your brain? Do you mind if we just have this conversation off the books, off the records? And I find that your counsel will most likely want to be there to help you. And if they don't, that's okay. That's how they make their money. They're billing. But I think more often than not, you'll be able to get just and don't commandeer their time, but just to take some time to say, where should I be and how can I use you? Because a lot of people may watch this podcast, may not watch this podcast, but I think the one valuable thing is knowing what your attorney can do for you and just ask them the question, how can I use you? Which documents do I need? I am a shipping company, versus I am a hair salon. Both of those need very, very different documents to start and to operate. Which licensure do I need? Does it have to be displayed in the case of a salon or spa or something? So stuff like that, asking off the bat is very, very helpful.
So speak quickly when it's a 15-minute coffee meeting.
Yes.
Very quickly.
Think about all the thoughts.
Yes.
Think about what you're going to say beforehand.
Okay. But that is something that would be reasonable to expect of a partner.
I think so. I mean, I often will do that for my clients. Okay. We'll have a macro level conversation. And then we'll move into the documentation. And sometimes I'll tell clients, I'll bill you when I start drafting, if that's the appropriate thing for the matter at hand.
Yes, I've heard that before.
Yes, well, because we're spending 3 or 4 minutes on a call for me to get a just better understanding. And for me, we'll bill when we'll start drafting. That's not always going to be the case for everybody, but it's the reality is sometimes the clients need to know that you're there for them. And if you're really there for them, which I think you should be, and I think most attorneys really want to be, then you're building that relationship.
I think it's the crux of everything, honestly.
I think it's the crux of everything. I think relationships are truly the crux of everything.
Yeah.
Yes.
Got to see that at play last night.
Oh, that was wonderful.
Oh my gosh. We went to the Tampa Bay Chamber SBOI Awards, and it was just pure magic. Like, what an incredible event.
Incredible event. I think the Tampa Bay area is really blessed to have a chamber that is so truly vested in the small businesses in and around Tampa Bay. Just seeing the energy in the room last night and how I'm not from the Tampa Bay region. I already knew of so many of the companies who were up there because they work together, which is truly astonishing. I think a lot of, living in a bigger city, you don't get a lot of that intersection. There's not the time, but here people are truly, truly invested to make sure that you are growing And that was palatable last night. It's beautiful.
I love it. I'm so glad that you were able to come and to go. It just was absolutely magnificent.
Yeah, thank
truly.
you for having me. It was wonderful.
Your glam was just chef's kiss. Okay, so we've talked about all these things. So then I was going to ask, what's the danger of relying on something like an online template or a handshake agreement? We've talked a bit about it, and I think you've offered some alternatives as opposed to those couple of things.
Yeah, and so I think just quickly, the templates can be like if you're forming an entity, for example, those templates are fantastic because they come directly from the state.
Okay.
And anything that's coming directly from the state, as this is the state's form of fill in the blank, you're kind of good to go. Even the IRS, this is the IRS W-9 form. You take the time you want to fill it out, that's perfectly fine. But if you're looking at an online legal form partnership agreement, what you're not getting is what is the actual partnership. It might tell you there are two partners, they each get equal voting shares, and the distributions are, as such if there's a dissolution and all of this stuff. But are there things that you need to put down there? Do you need to put anything else in there specific to your business? Do you want D&O insurance, for example, to protect your directors and officers of the company? So again, and I say this fully understanding that small businesses truly, when they start off very small, don't have the time or the energy to look at this stuff, but we're talking about those growth spurts where they're getting bigger and they're still relying on the templates and they're still relying on the AI tools that are available, and those don't help you capture nuance. So I think that's the biggest thing about templates. It's not capturing you as a business, and handshake agreements. I'm old school. I feel like a meeting of the minds is the most important thing. And what I love about what I do is you are able to take the meeting of the minds of two people and put it down on paper for them so that it's really solidified in a way they can look back at. But sometimes handshake agreements, and I know this might surprise you to hear me say this, might be okay, depending on...
I'm shocked. I'm not surprised.
I know.
This is me shocked. Yes.
They might be okay. Most of the time, to me, they're not. But if you're a startup and you're selling cookies and you come by, your office and, hey, will you buy these cookies for me once every week? And sometimes you just need that. Sometimes, yeah, sure, bring them by. I'll buy them. And the moment they don't fulfill the order or the moment you don't pay, then it's done. So a lot of, and the reason I want to say it's okay is because if I say it's not okay, it's not going to stop it from happening. People do this all the time. People bring in customers all the time and don't actually formalize anything in writing for them.
Well, that makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah. And that's really what a handshake agreement is. You might invoice them. You might do whatever. It's when you start to get bigger, and again, it's industry specific, because some industries you definitely need a customer onboarding process. But for this, and I'll talk sales industries. If you're actually selling a physical product to someone, sometimes when you start off small, you don't need anything more than, hey, will you buy this? Great, I'll invoice you for it. It just so happens that is sometimes how it happens.
And when you're a professional services organization, that might be a different animal.
That's a very different animal. But I will tell you, I know a lot of people who started in the service industry, and they don't send engagement letters. Yes. They don't send, in the legal field, you have to. Right. It's very different. But some people won't send anything out. And then there's a dispute. And again, you're availing yourself to the courts because you didn't take the time to develop what your relationship was supposed to be like in the beginning. So I wouldn't recommend it for something like that. But
So, and I think I've heard you say before, so it doesn't have to be super complicated. Like, we're working with limited funds, right? So
correct.
Being able to distill down to, hey, these are the critical things that you definitely should have in place. If you're a service organization, maybe let's put together a nice templated master service agreement. And what did you say we could add on to it to make it like easy peasy, lemon squeezy?
You could just add addendums or annexes. You can have one small master services agreement. And then depending on, you know which clients you service and the types of services you're offering. Like, here's our 2-page agreement, and here's the actual specific terms that apply to what we are doing for this particular matter.
Yes.
And I think it makes people, first of all, you're not spending time figuring out what you need for each client, because all of the what we call boilerplate stuff is always going to be the same. Your governing law is always going to be the same, right? The indemnity provisions might always be the same. But what you're doing for that client might not. And when we talk addendum, it's we are preparing X. It will be done by this day, and this is the cost.
Yes.
And that's it. And that's something you tailor each time. So I think master services agreement are great, and I know we got a little off topic again on the, but
Did
that's,
we?
well, I mean,
Stop
because it's not the
not
danger
on
of
the
relying on the handshake agreement, but and the truth is you don't have to rely on the handshake agreement, and you don't have to hire the most expensive attorney on the planet. You just need to write down on paper what you want and have someone legalize it for you to put it down on paper to make it work for you.
So not everything, I mean, my takeaway from what you're saying is not everything has to be papered like to the jot and tittle or even papered in general. But there are key things that likely should be appropriately memorialized. For me, right, like a lot of businesses that come in are partnerships. And so if it was like spit and a handshake, might be great in that moment, but sometimes those don't always work out. And then really we need to look to the documentation to understand how to unwind. And if you don't have that agreement, it can be problematic.
Very problematic. And just want to say, in my perfect world, everyone documents everything. I just know that is not always what happens. And I don't want people to feel like they did something wrong if they did it the old school way, which is I'm going to trust you, you're going to trust me. And I won't say that, these days you can't trust anybody, because I don't think you ever could have ever trusted anybody. I don't think it's any different time. But because people do it, just know that you will grow, hopefully, you will grow out of that phase. And when you do, you need to find a partner to help you get there. And it's not an AI. It's not an AI tool.
It's not an AI tool? Stop it right now. That is shocking. I was not expecting you to say that. Yes.
Hopefully, look, I know legal fees can be expensive, but I know people are like, oh, it's going to erase the legal field at some point. I don't know how it's going to get to the personality. Right. I don't know how it's going to get personal.
Agency, do you know? And then for me, what's always exciting is like it'll speak with such authority, and then you can quickly bump back. That's absurd. That's not real. That's incorrect. Oh yes, you're right. I was referring to 2024, not 2025. It's like, be quiet. Right.
Well, it's also, you can start there. Don't be afraid. These tools are fantastic. They're really fantastic for people to try to navigate small things, but don't end there. Get a good idea. And one of the, if I could give one tip to any entrepreneur, I don't know if this is on here or not, but
it's on the next page.
It's on the next page. Okay, we'll talk about it then.
Oh, wait with bated breath, people. Wait with bated breath. All right. So number 3, ready?
Yes.
Contracts where dreams meet disasters.
Is that how we're explaining them?
Well, I mean, that's the subtext, as it were. So I know that you have reviewed, you've written and you've reviewed thousands and thousands of contracts, various agreements. What's the single most expensive clause that people tend to overlook?
This is a tough one.
It's a tough one.
This is a tough one
because she said in the car.
Again, it is one of those, it depends. It depends on the industry. It depends on the type of document. In an M&A transaction, I think, maybe one of the most expensive are your, just thinking about the types of reps and warranties you need in the document. I don't mean expensive like it's going to cost you money. I mean expensive in getting down and doing the diligence to figure out what you need to put in there and how to protect yourself as a purchaser. How to craft it as a seller to make sure that you're not in hot water after the sale closes because you may have misrepresented something. So I think, for example, in an M&A transaction, that might be the most expensive, is really getting down to what's in the company, because that diligence phase is so very expensive. Yes. When you're doing that. As
it should be, right? Yeah. You should be doing extensive diligence. So it makes
every time,
right? It makes sense that your answer would be it depends. But I wonder, universal. Oh, it's Friday, guys. It was a late night. Universally, are there any red flags that you would see come up sort of over and over? Absolutes, any sort of language where you're like,
I think absolutes in a contract can be red flags. I see them a lot. Sometimes I'll draft them because it's the way you want it, and it gets people to the table saying, well, actually, we can't say this. Here we have these 3 things that we need to disclose. Right? So absolutes can be a red flag. Red flags are not always bad. It just means you need to dig deeper.
Red flags are not always bad.
They're not always bad before a contract is signed, because again, it just allows you to delve deeper into the situation at hand. If you're talking about a finance agreement, maybe one of the most expensive things are your financial covenants, because that really governs your life going forward with the lender, the bank or the private equity lender, whomever is. Yeah, they're huge. They're huge. Yeah. So it's a difficult question because it really truly is dependent, but yeah.
Okay. So case by case.
Everything is case by case.
And not all red flags are bad.
Not all red flags are bad before an agreement is
before an agreement is signed. Okay. So what about after a business owner has signed something? And maybe they've signed something that was not in their best interest. What can they do then to try to mitigate?
Happens all the time. And it happens all the time because they didn't follow rule number 1, which we talked about, which is get your lawyer involved early. But look, you can't unring a bell, right? As the saying goes.
Not in boot camp.
Not in boot camp, not anywhere. You can't go back in time and change it. If you find that you signed something that is truly devastating, have someone take a look and see if there's an out in that contract for you. And if there isn't, we have to figure out how it's devastating. Is it devastating upon something happening? So is it contingent upon something? And if it is, you just try your damnedest so that it doesn't actually happen, whatever that contingency is. And if it's not and it's just damning all around, then you have to figure out a way to work through that with your counsel. That might be an opportunity to get litigation counsel involved, even though it might be a business issue. So it really, really depends on the situation. But every mistake is not the end of the world either. There are plenty of people who sign documents and it's, at first glance, like, why would you sign something that says this? But going forward, it may never come to fruition. You can have a long, wonderful business life, and it never be an issue. So thinking about the fact that you weren't able to mitigate the risk up front because the document's already signed, what's the reality of that actually coming to fruition?
Yes.
What is the reality of the harm actually occurring? And I think that's where you get a little bit of business sense and a little bit of legal sense. Not legal because we can tell you all day what the legal harm will be. But hey, have you actually seen someone sue on this?
Right.
And that's, I think, where the legal expertise is helpful because it's not legal. It's, no, actually, we haven't seen anyone sue on this. And when it happens, it's very rare. And hopefully it doesn't happen to you. But if it does, we'll be there.
And I think that is such a gift to have a partner who can share that, right? Because for this business owner, this may be the first time they've ever touched anything like that. And it can sound, daunting. You might have a personal guarantee. You might be picturing the worst if you're a doom and gloom kind of person. So when you hear someone who's an expert, who's seen thousands and thousands of cases say, okay, well, it would have been great if we, could have maybe wordsmithed it a little bit earlier, but here's the likelihood. Here's how many times I've seen something like that happen. I think that level set, that palate cleanser is so valuable because there are so many things to worry about. And really that peace of mind is priceless. So having someone who can give that to you is wonderful.
I agree.
She agrees. Fantastic. Okay, moving right along. Money, credit, and control. Ooh. So some of my absolute favorite things, right? Like it's not pearls and champagne. It's the money, credit, and control and financing. So as your business grows, a lot of times liquidity will tighten, right? You're floating more cash. Maybe you need a working capital line of credit or another financing instrument. This is where Dalila and I met and fell in friendship, right? So financing sounds super sexy until the covenants kick in. Covenants, yes.
Covenants, yes.
Things with which you have to comply.
Correct. Affirmative and negative. Things you have to do and things you are not allowed to do.
Yes. And we've seen many of those things, Chica. Highly regulated fields, right?
Correct.
Financing is one of the most fun things that we do. It's really the centerpiece of many different engagements. What should CEOs look for before signing something like a line of credit or a loan agreement?
So similar to the M&A transactions where the nitty-gritty is kind of in the reps and warranties, reps and warranties in a credit agreement can be a little daunting because people don't realize often two things are true. They're almost impossible to follow, almost, because there are prohibitions on everything. And you're representing, and the second thing is you're representing every single time you borrow on that line of credit that all those representations and warranties are true and correct. That is often the case. And you'll see a representation and warranty that says the company has complied with all laws. Okay, all laws?
Expansive, isn't it?
Very, very expansive. Because did you not file something on time? Was that a violation of something? And that's a silly example. But so I would look at the reps and warranties and actually pay attention to them and understand them and ask your lawyer if you're using counsel, can you give me a a 30-minute overview of what these representations and warranties are, because some of them might not be applicable to you and you just leave them silent. It's totally fine. Some of them might be very hyper applicable to you and you cannot comply with them.
Yes.
For example, you will not grant any liens or have any bonds. Well, what if you're the type of company that needs to issue bonds every time you do some kind of contract? Yes. So looking at that, I would say the CEO in particular, because they're the operative person, right? You want them to take a look at that stuff. And then, of course, the covenants. The covenants are important, especially if you are acquisitive, especially if you're a company that's trying to expand, because often those covenants will limit your ability to do anything like that. And so in a small business, when you realize you need that first line of credit, some of this may not be applicable to you, and you just need that money, and you're going to go to a regional bank who are wonderful at helping in this situation. You might get an SBA loan, and that is so wonderful. It's such an amazing resource, although not right now because the government is not working.
Stop it. We have surpassed the longest shutdown ever. We're in the middle of it.
We are in the middle of it. But you have those resources. But often those documents are non-negotiable. Often the small regional banks, and I think, to be fair, they're taking a risk on a business that doesn't have a history. And they're saying, we need you to sign this because we need an out every single which way. And that sometimes is the risk that you take as the business owner, saying, okay, I either get the capital or I don't have to deal with these covenants. So you have to think about that. But even if they're onerous, understand them, truly understand them. And I caution people all the time, and you can attest to this. I want you to understand what's in the agreements that you're signing.
Sometimes I don't want to know.
Sometimes she doesn't want to know, and sometimes I make her want to know. Because my job is to explain what are your risks, and your job is to take them or not take them. I am not here to make your business decisions.
Right.
Similarly, with a credit agreement, I can guide you to what we consider quote unquote market, what we've seen in the market. I can guide you towards, what will work for your company and your industry. But at the end of the day, you have to live and breathe that document, and it follows you until you pay it off. And those representations and warranties and covenants are part of you until you pay it off.
Yes.
I hesitate to say what I'm about to say next because I don't want anyone to think that they shouldn't take them seriously. Often what happens is you sign a credit facility, and as long as you're sending in your compliance certificates and you're hitting your financial covenants, so if they're testing your leverage or your fixed charges, your ability to pay debt, then everyone doesn't pay attention to all the other stuff. But sometimes you'll get a small lender in particular who will pay attention to those things and who will have certifications that are difficult to comply with, and you need to focus on those. So I think everyone should truly understand what they're signing.
I think that is wonderful, and also I think really highlights the importance of working with a philosophically aligned treasury partner, honestly. So what's great about you'll negotiate very large instruments, right? I mean, we've done $25 million working capital lines of credit, renegotiated hundreds of millions of dollars related to leases. But it is really important to draw a distinction between some of the smaller instruments and the larger. And one of the most incredible things about these local or regional financial institutions is a lot of times they are sitting with you knee to knee, shoulder to shoulder. You might even have coffee longer than 15 minutes with the chief lending officer, right? And they are walking you through the different things that you can do, and they're believing in the vision that you're painting. And so, there's less flexibility in a lot of those agreements, right? Because it looks a little bit different. And I love hearing from you. Of course, they're going to look differently, but understand what they are. Understand what they are, and also understand that you feel comfortable in complying with them. Because if you trip a covenant, right, the goal is always to get back into compliance, but there can be devastating consequences. So we want to make sure that the agreement is written in such a way that there's enough flexibility for it to be real for you to live comfortably in.
I agree. And the one area where you may have flexibility are your financial covenants. But, as you can attest to probably better than I can, as you're starting, your leverage ratio is probably going to be where it's at.
Yes.
Your fixed charges are not going to dramatically change over and over. And those financial covenants, your definition of EBITDA, you don't need a 3-page definition of EBITDA when you start.
Yes.
It's truly just EBITDA.
Right.
And that's
it's
all
not
you
adjusted
need.
EBITDA.
It's not adjusted. So that becomes a little bit easier. It's some of the other covenants that people may not realize they have to put the effort into. What if you're delivering a monthly borrowing base certificate? If they're lending against your receivables, do you have someone in place who can do that? And if it's you, do you know how to do that? They might give you a certificate to fill out, but do you know how to put your do you know how to fill that out to have the Excel spreadsheet to do that?
Cross-aging your receivables.
Cross-aging your receivables.
Taking your aged credits and offsetting against current. What do you mean?
Not stretching your payables too much, things like that. So I think it's very important to truly understand what it's asking of you. If you're supposed to give them your tax returns, don't forget, set a little calendar reminder.
Yes.
Hey, I need to give my lender my tax returns when I send them in. If you're a bigger company, you're doing an audit and you're sending in your audited returns. Maybe it's 45 days after each quarter, you're sending them your internally prepared statements.
Yes.
Don't forget to do that stuff.
These were our covenants that she was just referencing. That's exactly what they were. We would sign the certificate, right?
Yeah, you'd sign the certificate. You would attach them. You would attest that not only is everything in there true and correct in all material respects, because we make sure we get the materiality qualifier when we represent the companies, but also that the representations and warranties in the credit agreement are still true and correct, because they don't want to continue to lend into a company that's in default.
Yes.
Now, again, are people paying particular attention to those? Likely not. But for me, it's a very easy thing for a company to just stay on top of. Revisit your credit agreements every few months. And I say this and people are like, no one's ever going to do that. Even the lenders are just like, I don't know what you're talking about. Nobody ever does that. Just revisit them. Remind yourself. And especially if you start to work in the international realm, which a lot of small businesses do. In particular, we have Canada and Mexico. Make sure that there are not covenants that prohibit international sales, international business. So thinking about that, I think, is really important, and getting a handle on that document, because it is your operating agreement for your cash, if you think about it that way.
And it's almost like demonstrating a good dating history, right? Like we're working towards.
I like that.
She likes my analogies. We're working
Love
towards
your
a
analogies.
solid marriage, right? Because this partner that you have, if you are performing well, and I don't just mean performing well from an operational perspective, but you're complying with those guidelines of the agreement, you're being communicative, which honestly I think is the most important thing. If there is any sort of volatility, anything is happening, speak up. Chat often, right? Like maintain those lines of communication. People will do amazing things for you when you're upfront and honest with them.
It is so true. I don't know where it comes from, but I think some people feel they have to only present what they think is necessary to answer a question, in particular to their lender. And as a business owner, the more open you are, the more they are willing to help you with things when you are a small business. I find that to be very true, because it is a true partnership. They want you to pay them back, but they want you to grow. They want you to be a customer for the life of however long they can have you until you grow out of them, which is another thing. You will hopefully eventually grow out of those smaller agreements. And so although they are daunting, you do have this partnership where they are talking to you a lot, actually. Most people talk to their credit officers, not because they need more credit or just, hey, how are things going? Let's get lunch. Let me introduce you to this person. They also have clients who could be beneficial to you, and vice versa. So they want to be a part of your life, and I think that's a great relationship, and being open with them. And I don't mean to get personal with the experiences, but when things are going bad, if you call them first, it's a lot easier to deal with than if they find it in your financial statement.
So to be clear, everybody will have a period where things are going bad, right?
Yes.
There are so many different industries, so much volatility, and there are some that are so incredibly regulated. I worked in healthcare during and after COVID, and it was harrowing. I mean, I've aged 20 years during that time, right? But staying in contact with our partners, being highly communicative, because provider relief monies, like all of the things that were coming to fruition, and there was no guidance on them. The guidance was changing day by day, and there was a lot of ambiguity. So we were able to provide so much assurance to our partners just by touching base, and they were so grateful for the context, grateful for the perspective, and it allowed us to fellow with other clients of theirs as well, which was so impactful. I mean, in the end, it was really such a time of deep learning, I think, for so many of us. But yes, always have the conversation. And if not all lending institutions appeal to the same industries, right? Some
Very
might
true.
specialize in healthcare, some might specialize in automotive, and a lot of them want to grow and branch out into different industries. So really being able to educate them on the ins and outs of your business, it's important for them to understand like the Medicare copay, right? And how that's held and it's paid in level payments and what that looks like. Because if you don't know that, you could look at the aging and say, my God, what's happening? And it's like, no, calm down. We get a big settlement, right? Yes.
And so that's the example I was alluding to when I said not to get personal.
Yes.
But you know, and we were talking about something maybe just a teeny bit bigger than what we would consider, you know, traditional small business. But that's an even better example because still invested. And I think you made a really good point about teaching your lender about your business. Because like lawyers, they are finance officers.
Yes.
They want to figure out how to deploy money and how to help you and how to get paid back and how to get their return on their investment, the whole thing.
Yes.
But they are not owners of a healthcare company.
No.
And you need to really teach them, in particular in drafting financial covenants. Wait, actually, this doesn't work for me. And testing at this level, like imagine if you're a cyclical business.
Yes.
Testing at this level at the end of the year, we don't get a lot of business at the end of the year, but we
No.
ramp up January 1st.
Yes.
And so maybe there is a hiatus on testing covenants for a certain amount of time, or the covenants are, depending on the covenant, higher or lower at a particular time.
Give me
because
a
it's just not
TTM,
going to
just
work for
smooth
you.
it out.
Yeah.
Yes.
And even, and sometimes the levels just may not work at particular times. So I think it's really, really beneficial to educate them on your business and having that partnership. And that's another area where CEOs, before signing a line of credit, to kind of finally come full circle to the question you asked.
Look at you.
But where they can also benefit is looking at how this actually impacts their business and how the document can be tweaked to work better for their business. You will find a lot of lenders are amenable to that because they can't change how you operate.
Yes.
They just can't. So they can change how you grow. They can't change how you operate, but that's a different discussion for a different podcast.
It's just it's so incredible because one of the organizations that we worked with during a very tumultuous time, this incredible gentleman was in town and he came to my office to visit me. Like lives in New Jersey, do you know? But we had become so close during the process, and it's a beautiful thing. I think that just feeds and facilitates our ecosystem. Treat your partners well, and you'll always have a great friend and connection.
Agree.
So, because I'm so long-winded, we got to go rapid fire, Chica girl.
Rapid fire? Okay, go for it.
So, rapid fire, we're going to skip a whole section because we sort of touched on it. She is shocked. You should have seen how big her eyes just got. Okay, so rapid fire, myths and must-knows. What is the biggest legal myth that costs small businesses the most money?
So we actually kind of touched on this a bit. It's thinking that every lawyer can do anything. And that is not true. They cannot. So I know we're in rapid fire mode. Every lawyer cannot do anything, and that is also very okay. I think that's a big legal myth.
Okay, perfect. I love it. And we did talk about it. So rewind the tape, people. One bad habit that you wish every entrepreneur would break, like immediately.
Stop thinking your lawyer has all the answers. I think that your lawyer has all of the possibilities, or should have as many possibilities as are available. But your lawyer does not always have all the answers. The answers have to come from you, and that means thinking about things and really rolling your sleeves up and figuring it out. An outside attorney is not an in-house counsel, meaning the in-house counsel is really there in the day-to-day, knows the business, and can answer those questions and handle things without having to go to the CEO all the time or talk to the CFO about something. And if you're at the level where you have in-house counsel, then this conversation is likely not for you.
Oh my gosh.
But
we're a $200 million company and didn't have in-house counsel.
But if you don't have in-house counsel, your lawyer only knows what you tell them. And take the options for what they are, but know that you do have to make the decision at the end of the day. And I can't save you from that. The business decisions, right? I will argue your indemnity provisions all day, but your business decisions have to come from you.
I think the conversation is so important, having the respect and trust, and then being able to sort of banter back and forth, of course, in a respectful and professional way.
Course.
Never any profanity or cocktails are involved.
Never.
Right?
Never, not once.
Not once, but it's so helpful to be able to do that because sometimes there are these little nuances that make me think about a business decision slightly differently.
Yep.
And the way that you explain things as it relates to obligations and other restrictions, it's like, oh God, I never thought of it that way, but that makes total sense. So have a conversation, people. All right. Ooh, chica. I see a theme. What is one habit that separates the really great, well-protected companies from the rest? And I feel like I might know the answer.
Oh, I want to hear your answer.
Speaking to counsel early and often.
Speaking to counsel early and often. Yes. I think even if it's not the often, it's the early. I think a lot of people, they get into the groove, they're doing things, and they forget to take the step back. And they will promise things that they shouldn't promise. They will offer things that and when I say shouldn't, I don't mean it's your business. You spend your money how you want to spend your money. But for example, granting people leniency on liability without talking to how that could possibly impact you and without documenting it, which is something that I've seen recently.
Jesus.
So things like that, just having the conversation. Having the conversation.
I feel like it's just good sense.
I think it's just good sense. Again, if you're working with counsel. If you're not working with counsel, you can still be well protected. You just have to be much more diligent into learning about what impacts your business, which regulations impact your business, which employment, laws you have to think about and worry about depending on how you're growing. So again, if you're not working with counsel.
Okay, great. So I'm going to skip this because I want to take a moment to endorse you a little bit more.
Oh.
So if someone wanted to get in touch with you, they liked what you had to say, they wanted to potentially work together or schedule one of those 15-minute super succinct rapid fire coffees that you referenced, how would they go about getting in touch with you?
Well, I think everyone who's listening to this knows you. I think that they do.
All
or they know
people?
They know how to. I think we're going to be up to like 25.
Stop it! Dare to dream.
No, you can look me up, and I'm online.
Dalila Berry. You're on the Google.
I'm on the
and
Google.
LinkedIn.
I'm on the LinkedIn. I'm everywhere.
But not Instagram though.
I am not on Instagram or TikTok.
Yes,
or Facebook.
Okay,
or
maybe
one of the other
Pinterest?
ones. Nope, not
Okay.
on Pinterest.
All
Is that
right.
the one where you just people pin photos?
Yes.
I don't get it.
Like inspiration boards, decoration, all
Yeah.
of those things.
No, I'm not on any of that, but
Sadly.
correct. It's so sad for my life. Maybe one day I will find the time. Maybe. And maybe by that time, it'll just be a phantom AI thing that tells me the type of social media that I need.
I love it.
don't know. But yes, you can find me. I'm happy to talk, in particular with any of your clients, but anyone who needs anything, feel free.
Thank you so much
You're
for
very welcome.
actually getting on an airplane and flying down from Philly, taking the time to come in and talk. I really appreciate it. You truly are just absolutely spectacular. And I know for myself personally, I would not be where I am professionally with my business or just in life in general without your counsel.
Oh my God.
So
I'm
thank
gonna
you
cry.
so much.
Are we supposed to cry on
No,
this
well, I have an
podcast?
emotional support tissue, so don't
Okay.
worry. Just hold the tears for a minute. Thank you so very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. It was an absolute pleasure.
Yes. And thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciated having you here today. If you liked what you heard, I don't know, drop us a like on the YouTube and also maybe a lovely comment. Tell your friends. That's all we've got for today. Thanks so much.